2 sessions with our distinguished Toastmaster, Tala bin Hamid, all the way from Karachi, Pakistan. And they have been delightful and also full of information and humor and a personal perspective that in some cases is different from our own. Tala was instrumental with another small number of people in starting District 122 provisional in Pakistan, so looking after the clubs in Pakistan. So he has done an awful lot of work in sponsoring and mentoring new clubs, and he's coached a lot of clubs as well. So his background is pretty intense over the past 4 or 5 years, and he has a lot to say, but very concisely and with great analogies for you. So I hope you learn a lot tonight. It's in 2 pieces, about 30 minutes a piece. We had to record Tala because he couldn't make this time slot this evening. And we can pause after the first one if there's any big questions, or we can wait to the very end and do some wrap and summary. I'd like to just go over the new club coaching program with you so that you know you're clear of the process that we have. On that note, I would like to introduce our speaker of the evening, Tala bin Hamid. We need some sound, Dorothy.
The most rewarding.
Got it. Thank
What
you.
is that assignment? You must know by now, it's all about coaching a club. What does a club coach do? You must have heard the term quite a bit. And perhaps you would be confused as to what's the difference between a club mentor and a club coach. Or, for example, a club sponsor. So, let me give you a very simple example. A club sponsor is like the parent of a club. Club sponsor actually helps the club come into being by recruiting members, by performing all the other activities that are necessary for the club to be established. A club mentor is the babysitter, the person who oversees the club while it learns to walk, and ultimately it becomes a self-contained, independent individual. Some clubs become independent even when they're toddlers, and some clubs still live at their parents' houses even when they're adults. So it varies. Every club is different. What's a club coach? Club coach is called in when a club is sick, when an intervention is needed. Either the club has lost its way, it's not studying, it's perhaps into drugs or doing illegal trades, or it is sick and either it needs physiotherapy or treatment or just attention and care. All these are provided by a club coach. So a club coach is someone who nurses a club back to full health. Why do I call the biggest and the most difficult assignment in Toastmasters? Because unlike club sponsorship and club mentorship, success as a club coach is not assured. See, when you've sponsored a club and when you've signed up to mentor a club, you're sure that the club will exist for the first 6 months because that's the term for which the initial fees are paid. And as long as that club exists, you can always ask the president of the club to certify that you've coached them, you have mentored them successfully, right? And There are very few instances where a club president will not certify successful mentorship. However, whether you're successful as a coach is not decided by time, it's not decided by the club president, it's decided by the dashboard. So not only a club needs to be healthy at the end of your term, it needs to be distinguished. So before going into what a club coach is supposed to do, let's go through the agreement, the document that you have to sign in order to become a club coach. Yes, it is that important. You have to sign up an agreement. So the district director or the trio member can appoint a club coach. The club coach is appointed for at least 3, but not more than the club coach is appointed when a club has at least 3, but not more than 12 members. Right? Club confirms that the coach has not been a member of the club in the past 6 months, so you simply cannot coach your own club. In other words, although you can take up membership immediately after becoming a coach. Confirms that the coach has had active membership of Toastmasters International for a minimum of 1 year and has served as a club officer for 1 annual term or 2 semi-annual terms. So this is important. Not only you need to be a member in good standing, but you need to have served at least 1 annual term as a club officer or 2 semi-annual terms. Confirm that the coach has completed a minimum of level 2 in a path. And that is also something that is different about being a club coach. Or an advanced communicator bronze or advanced leader bronze. You can forget about these because these pertain to the old curriculum and these are no longer applicable. Just remember, you need to have completed level 2 in a path, just like you need to have completed level 2 to compete in the international speech contest. Confirms both the club officers of the club to be coached and the club coach have completed the club coach program training module in base camp. So this is also an additional requirement which the club coach has to fulfill. You both, the coach and the targets of the coach, need to have gone through this training program. So the period of service of a club coach is a minimum of 6 months. By June 30, with the below requirements met prior to seeking club coach credit. You can only coach 1 club at a time. You may not become a member of the coach club during the club coach assignment. You must complete and submit the club coach preliminary report within 30 days of appointment and the club coach progress report every 60 days. And the club coach final report once the term of service is ended. So you need to not only submit regular reports, you cannot be a member of the club that you're coaching. Club coach education program credit requires a club to achieve distinguished or better by the June 30 following the completion of the minimum 6 months requirement. So if you're starting out in June of 1 year, your club needs to be distinguished by the June 30 of next year. Or if you're starting somewhere around the middle of the year. For example, if you're starting in October, your 6 months will complete by March, and you still have to ensure that the club gets distinguished by June 30. But if you're starting in January or February, you have a comparatively longer period of time because your first 6 months will complete in July or August, and you have a margin till next June 30 to ensure that the club becomes distinguished. Club coach district leadership credit is also granted if the club achieves 20 or more members in addition to club being distinguished or better by the June 30 following the completion of the minimum 6 month requirement. So this is interesting. You would be asking yourself, isn't it necessary for a club to have 20 members in the first place in order to become distinguished? The answer is no. If your club has 8 members at July 1, all it needs to do to become distinguished for the entire year is to add 3 more members during the year and end the year at 11 members. Previously, the requirement used to be 5 new members, but now it is 3 new members. So yes, it is possible for a club to become distinguished even without 20 members. But if you do ensure that the club reaches 20 members, you will receive a district leadership credit. And trust me, this is very important. This is a good way to score a district leadership credit without actually serving a district leadership position, which you may or may not be elected or appointed to. To receive credit, the club president or officer delegate must notify about headquarters. If the club coach is unsuccessful, the appointment can be extended for 2 additional program years. So in short, your upper limit of being a club coach is essentially 3 years, because you can start at the very beginning of a program year. You will have a deadline of the year end. And if you're not successful by then, which means that if your club is not distinguished by the end of the first year, you can extend the assignment to a further 2 program years. The club president or delegated club officer agrees to encourage officers and members in actively pursuing distinguished club status, encourage officers or members in actively achieving 20 members or better, invite club coaches to club officer training. So in short, ensure that they do everything they're supposed to do. That's what club officers are supposed to do, right? The district director or delegated PQD or CTD agrees to submit this form to world headquarters at the time of appointment. Read and respond as appropriate to club coach reports and ensure club coaches undergo the club coach 360 evaluation. So this process, the whole club coach assignment is much more organized, it is much more diligent, and it requires direct input from the district trio. So you can guess how important it is. So before we move further, let me also share one thing from my own experience. Not everybody likes club coach assignments. And the first instinct whenever a club falls sick is to just forget about it and establish a new club, because that is easier. But you know what? Losing a club, even a single club, is a great loss to a district. It is a question mark on the founders of that club, the members of that club, and the leadership of that area, division, and district. Yes, I know. Many times, no matter what you do, a club dies, and you cannot save it. I'm not talking about those cases. I'm talking about cases where just a little bit of effort and attention can rescue a club. When you rescue a club, it is like adding 2 clubs. Why is that? Because you've saved one club from going down, and you can always build on top of that to establish another club. Establishing new clubs when your existing clubs are dying is like trying to fill a bucket from the top while it has holes in the bottom. Doesn't make sense. Not many people support this strategy, but as an immediate past district director, let me tell you one thing. Healthy clubs create motivation. Continuing clubs create new clubs. Yes. Only when clubs continue, their members think about going for Distinguished Toastmaster, and only when they think about going for Distinguished Toastmaster, they think about sponsoring and mentoring new clubs. It's a cycle of life. Life gives birth to life. Whereas if a club dies, it takes the whole area and perhaps a division with it. Because in order for an area or division to be distinguished, it needs to have shown unmet club growth. So the repercussions of a club dying are not just one backward movement of the needle on the dashboard in terms of morale, in terms of image, in terms of the district's motivation, it has far-reaching implications, and I'm sure that if you've witnessed the death of a club in your respective area, you know what I'm talking about. Paradoxically, there are precious few resources for a club coach. It is an assignment that is largely left to the club coach's imagination, although there are definitive tools. Because Toastmasters recognizes that every club is different, every club's life cycle is different, and sometimes radical approaches are needed. So, in my previous year of service as District Director of District 122 Provisional District, when September 30 rolled around and the dashboard got updated, we suddenly saw that we had 8 sick clubs, which were not meeting even 3 members, 3 renewals. So I told my team, I told my division directors, area directors, and even the club board director that, club growth will take care of itself. When somebody wants to establish a new club, they go ahead and establish a new club. Nobody misses out on establishing a new club because they did not have enough support. Everybody loves to support new clubs. Everybody loves to have their names as sponsors and mentors. But even if the club growth director does not pay that much attention to club growth, it happens by itself. What will not happen by itself is rescue of sick clubs. That takes conscious effort, and that takes realization as to why is it important. We were a district of 45 clubs back then, and for us, even 6 clubs were important. Perhaps if you are a district of 250 or 200, 5 or 6 clubs don't matter. And you do a risk and reward analysis, and you find out that if our district's attention is focused towards rescuing these 5 or 6 clubs, we won't be able to focus on our other goals. But for us, the whole club growth was hidden inside the rescue of these clubs. So I told everyone to drop everything, stop focusing on club growth and control the leakage. And yes, sometimes it felt like being that Dutch boy who was standing before a dam with several holes and water was leaking out. We were plugging fingers one by one. And yes, it can feel like that. But in the end, we managed to rescue at least 5 of those clubs. And when we did, we finished the year not as a distinguished district, but we fulfilled the distinguished criteria in 2 out of 3 categories. And we fell short of membership growth criteria just by 80 renewals. So we fell short of payments by 80 renewals. And who knows, if those 6 clubs were healthy all along, we would have gotten those 80 renewals. So you never know where your growth will come from. You never know which club will suddenly balloon and explode in popularity. You never know which club will suddenly become like a mini district and give birth to several new clubs. For all that to happen, a club has to survive. So if the whole Toastmasters is like a big hospital, bear with me here, everybody's attention and joy and all the gifts and balloons and all the orderlies and the nurses and doctors are concentrated in the gynecology section, in the maternity section, because that is where the new babies are being born and that is where new life is taking shape. Nobody is paying attention to the intensive care unit, where some patients are just on life support. And it is your job as a club coach to go against the tidal wave of attention towards new clubs and not only get to the intensive care unit, but monitor those patients, ensure they start functioning on their own, and arrange the necessary resources for that to happen. Now, we'll go through a presentation, and this presentation has been derived from Toastmasters official materials and support materials and frequently asked questions present on the website. So first, we have to understand the life cycle of a club. Think of a club like a living organism. Think of a club like you and me. We are born and our parents are excited. Everybody is excited around us. And we are the apple of our eye, the apple of our parents' eyes, as long as we are the only child. But then our brothers and sisters follow. And what happens? Our parents' attention get divided. And there comes a time when we have to not only look out for our own selves, we have to look out for our younger siblings. So think about new clubs and existing clubs and sick clubs in those terms. There's excitement, but then sometimes when a club becomes too successful, it becomes complacent. And it happens very slowly and very secretly. There's a famous saying that by the time an organization's decline begins, it is too late, because the decline begins while it is at its peak. So you need to look out against complacency. Yes, your club is doing well, new members are coming in, but what is the engagement of existing members? You know, a club may fall into hard times due to many reasons. It may lose its meeting place if it's a physical club. It may lose a few key members who go on to establish a new club. It may lose the interest of loyal members. Seldom a club will die because new members are not coming in. No. Hardly any club dies because new members don't come in. A club dies because we are not paying enough attention to loyal members, to existing members. We are not engaging them. We don't realize that there are several senior distinguished Toastmasters in our club who always provide excellent evaluations, but they haven't delivered a project in like 6 years. And if they're not delivering projects, what will tie them to Toastmasters and to the club? Their sense of internal goodness and virtue and desire to do something for the society? Yes, but for how long? So, every club, if you're a club member, think about engagement. If most of your members are engaged in projects and speeches and roles, your club is doing well. Even if it's not distinguished, doesn't matter. Even if new members are not coming in, doesn't matter. Engagement is directly proportional to the health of a club. Or rather, I got it the wrong way around. Health of a club is a indirect proportion to member engagement. You can have 20 new members or 40 new members or 50 new members. When I became the president of my home club for the first time, my home club grew from 28 members to 79 members. And only after the completion of that first year, as immediate past president, I realized that it's not the number of members that you have, it is the number of active members that you have that accounts for the health of the club. So look out for complacency in your club. Look out for member dissatisfaction, because there will come a time, there will be in April or September, October, where those few key members decide not to renew. And when one of them decides not to renew and to turn up in meetings, their whole group may decide to go away towards another club or go away from Toastmasters in general. So always be ready for that moment and actively prevent against it. Slow but steady decline, and yes, that is something I referred to earlier, and some uncontrollable events. For example, other clubs that are doing well and that are competing for the same time and space that your club meets in, right? There might be something that causes your club's meeting place to change. The logistics of the city may change. You know, in our country, we are seeing a major change in dynamics due to rising fuel prices. Who would have thunk it, right? But fuel prices mean that less and less members are willing to travel to a club's meeting place more and more members are dialing in online, right? And roughly 50% of those members who are dialing in online actually enjoy the experience. So what happens? Since they cannot afford to travel to the club's meeting place, they gradually drift away. So this is something that we all need to see. As I know, it is more about a club's quality than club coaching, but an ideal scenario is that your club should not ever need a coach in the first place. So these are all the indicators that it may be heading towards a stage where it may need a coach. Secondly, it takes a village. Once again, just like club mentorship, you can have 2 club coaches, but you need the club's executive committee, if it's still there. You need your area and division and district support. You need a group of people, a bunch of people to form a rescue group. And when I say rescue group, it means that there may be several ways of nursing the club back to life. One of the ways could be that you could try to bring in and revive the interest of old members who have lost interest. Another way could be that you could ask other clubs to ask some of their members to renew with the sick club rather than the healthier clubs, just to give it that little bit of support and to start participating in its meetings. You can also ask the charter members if they can engage an entirely new group of people which can take over the club. Of course, the charter members need to be there. Charter of a club cannot change hands, but the charter members can engage a new group of people, a new group of Toastmasters to take the club forward. All of those are valid strategies, and there's only one thing common between all of them, and that is it takes a village. So, what are the basics? The club coach must serve at least 6 months. The club coach cannot join the club during their appointment. The club coach must submit and complete the reports. We have been through this. So this is the crux of the club coach assignments. And how do you scout for coaches? Now, since this is a very difficult assignment, it is potentially more time consuming than even a club presidency. It can be very frustrating. It can extract an emotional and physical toll on the club coaches. So make sure that you scout a club coach that actually has a reason to do a club coach role. It may be one of the founders of the club who has drifted away. You can challenge them that you founded this club. It is your duty to nurse it back to life. It may be someone looking for a DTM credit. All in all, they just need to have a very good reason to do a club coach role, because once again, let me reiterate, at the risk of sounding a broken record, it is a difficult assignment that is emotionally and physically taxing. And it is much more difficult compared to being a club sponsor or club mentor. So this is also a basic overview of the club coach program. Then what are the duties of a club coach? The following is a summary of what a club coach must do. Build a rapport with the club's officers and members, assess the environment, observe, analyze, and recommend solutions. Develop a plan with goals for improvement, implement the plan and ensure that the changes are performed by the officers and members as much as possible. Instill enthusiasm, loyalty, and a sense of responsibility for the club's future. And you know what? If you have ever been a club president, perhaps you faced this situation, even in a healthy club. How do you get the ex-con to care about the club? If you summarize all these points, it is caring about the future of the club and getting the club members and its executive committee to care about the future of the club. You know, the easiest thing in the world is to not care. Let the club die. What will happen? The sky will not fall. If it's a corporate club, you can tell them that, Your company's name is attached to this initiative. What will your employees think if this initiative suddenly disappears? They will say that this is also one of those projects which you started with great enthusiasm and then it fizzled away. So this is just one of the techniques of instilling care and loyalty. Secondly, you can remind the members what it means for service of the community. You can remind the members of the club's history, how many lives it has changed, how many lives it has the potential to change further. In the end, you have to appeal to the conscience and to the values instilled inside each Toastmaster. The values of integrity, respect, service, and excellence. The values that allow us to be selfless volunteers to work and even keep working when we are not getting results. This is the toughest part. Everybody loves success. Success breeds success. If a club is doing well, if it's churning out DTMs, if it's in the top 10 or top 20 of clubs in the district, everybody feels attached to the club. It's like getting attached to your winning team. If your home team is winning, at the end of another match, what do you say? Yes, we won. We won. And if your home team loses, what do you say? Oh, they should have done this. They should not have played that there. They should have not made that mistake. There's a sense of dissociation. So attaching yourself to a prospectively failing club and nursing it back to life is not just a numeric achievement. It is a rite of passage. It may train us to stick to our goal despite how great the odds against us. It is nothing less and nothing more than a life lesson. So at this point, we will take a short break and return in a few minutes. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Take a break, take a minute or two if you want to go.
Yes, go ahead.
Right. Yeah. All right. Welcome back, potential club coaches. And I believe that I've scared all of you enough. But let me also remind you that once completed, being a successful club coach can be one of the most rewarding feelings that you will ever have. It doesn't go away. I know. So we were on the caring part. Beyond the dashboards, beyond the numbers, you need to care yourself and you need to make a whole set of other people care. The members of the club you're coaching, the executive committee, also your area, division, and district leadership. In fact, I will reinforce my point that you need to build a whole support team that goes much beyond the two club coaches, so that you can draw on those people, draw on their support, invite them as celebrity guests, invite them for counseling sessions, and receive targeted and specific advice from them, either for yourself or for the club executive committee members. So expand your team and make sure that there is the district involvement. In most districts, the club growth director has several teams, and there's a specific team for club extension, or it may be titled renewals or growth, or it may have any title. But there must be a team that is there to ensure that the clubs preserve their strength. Maybe in your district, it is under the program quality director, because the club strength also bears directly into the distinguished position of a club. So seek that team out, ask your leadership which team looks after preservation of membership, and make sure that you have the team lead on board, because you caring alone is not enough. You will not succeed if you are the only one who cares. Everyone within the club and everyone within the leadership needs to care about your club rescue effort. Only then you will succeed. So what are the stages of being a club coach? How do you nurse them back to life? First of all, of course, you inspect the club. You look at its renewals history. You look at its dashboard. You ask the club officers to explain how the club was before and what caused its decline. Then you diagnose the problem, and the problem can be one of many, or there may be many problems. You know, one thing that you will realize, just like a living organism, if there is one illness that a club contracts, usually it is accompanied by other illnesses. Yes. For example, if your meeting quality declines, that means that your members start to drift away. And that also means that there are less renewals. It also means that fewer and fewer new members are coming in. That also means that perhaps you lose a few of your executive committee members. And that also means that they will not attend the club officers training. They're simply not invested enough in the club to make that effort. So it all connects, it all adds up to make a club sick. So it may start with a little sign of trouble, but it may balloon into a major illness. So diagnose what went wrong, whether the club was doing too well for it to be conscious about quality control. I've seen those cases where some clubs are so comfortable getting renewed. Apologies for that. Some clubs are so comfortable, they're constantly recruiting new members, they're getting exposure on social media. They don't really notice when their meeting quality is declining. And once again, let me tell you from experience, no club ever died because new members stopped coming to it. Clubs die because existing members lose interest and do not renew. That's why clubs die. So diagnose what went wrong with the club, whether it was the club quality, whether it was the change in circumstances. For example, if it was a corporate club, did the company suddenly lose interest? Did a key management personnel change in the company? Did a champion of Toastmasters in the company leaving the company to its own devices? Anything can be possible. And there's a way out of any such situation. Just like we believe that a patient can be brought to life, a sick patient, a patient on the verge of death, can be made healthy again. That's why hospitals exist. That's why the whole medical profession exists, right? So work out strategy for regaining health. And that can be anything. That may be building membership. That may also be changing the meeting time and day of the club, turning it into a themed club. If it's a closed club, turning it into an open club, turning it into a bilingual club. Anything is possible. Bringing in guest speakers, changing the structure of meetings. If there are too many projects, maybe projects could be fewer and table topics could be more, and vice versa. Anything can address a club's failing health. Medicine and lifestyle changes, and this is the toughest part, because sometimes a patient receives treatment willingly because they want to get back on their feet. Once they are back on their feet, though, for example, if a heart attack patient is back on their feet, have you seen how their physicians struggle to get them to discipline their lives, stop smoking, stop eating too much, take a walk every day? How many people actually adapt to these changes immediately? Not even 10%. It takes either another scare or continuous badgering by the physician to actually change their lifestyle. And the one lifestyle change that the club may require, and I can guarantee you this, is self-analysis. If a club is not analyzing every meeting actively, if there's no discussion when a meeting strays out of time, or if the meeting quality dips, if there's no discussion, then the lifestyle change is not there. It needs to be there. I'm fond of saying one thing: no matter how good or decorated your club is, it's only as good as its latest meeting. So no matter how many amazing, glorious meetings you've had in the past is in the past. What matters is right here, right now. Are you or your club capable of having a quality meeting? Are your members engaged? And you have to ensure that meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. The past, the glories of the past do not translate into quality meetings. You have to ensure total quality management meeting after meeting. And that is the one lifestyle change that every Sikh club needs, to construct a meeting bit by bit by bit, and to ensure that it is the best meeting possible. And question everything. So what are your assumptions about the club, or what do the members assume about the club? Do they think that old members who are no longer giving speeches do not matter? Do you think that the time and place of meeting is perfect? Challenge every assumption. Everything can be changed in the club constitution, including the club's language, the club's nature, the club's meeting time and place. Explore whether you need to change anything. And you don't even need to explore. Test different scenarios out. When rescuing one club, we tried out different meeting times. And we found that when we changed the meeting time, a group of members who was not attending before suddenly started attending. But the group of members who attended before stopped attending because that time was not convenient for them. So we arrived at one conclusion: retain the members who found it convenient to attend and direct the other members to another club which was meeting their requirements. So instead of members being inactive in one club because it does not fulfill their requirements, they should better be active in a club that fulfills their requirement. And then our number halved, obviously. We went from 12 members to 6 members in the process. We gave away 6 of our members, but it was time to rebuild. Now that we had determined that, this is the meeting time and place of the club, it will not change, we were able to recruit members by saying that our club meets at this time and day. If you can take out time, this is the club for you. So when we once again got to 12 members, then 6 new members that we had recruited were completely invested in the new meeting, in the meeting time and place of the club, rather than having uncertainties. And this is something you will face, especially after the second cycle. When a new club is formed, a meeting time and date and theme and everything is decided, right? And most members sign up for that. And that is how you reach 20 members. But gradually, some members discover that the time or the day is not comfortable for them. And they start missing meetings. They start skipping meetings. They start attending other clubs. Until after the end of 6 months, you realize that while the club started with 25 members, only 12 are willing to renew, or only 6 are willing to renew. So don't let that be a surprise. Actively monitor attendance. And the only answer to that is what I said earlier. Actively monitor club's health, monitor every meeting, monitor the statistics of every meeting. And that is equally true for the clubs that you have rescued. So, what is an ideal club environment, right? Club officers are responsible, delegated, and effective. The meeting begins and ends on time. Club programs are well planned and well executed. And what do I mean by club programs? It may be meetings, it may be team meetings, it may be contests, it may be special ceremonies, anything. All meeting participants arrive on time and are prepared. Members and guests alike are greeted as they arrive and welcome to the meeting. All members present are engaged and have an opportunity to participate. And notice one thing, all members present. So members have the first right to speak in every meeting. Don't be that club. If you try to focus too much on converting guests into members, your existing members will feel neglected. And that is one of the indicators of decline that we so often miss. We are so anxious about giving speaking opportunities to guests that we often forget that there are so many members who do not have a speaking role. They're waiting for an opportunity to speak. So put your members first. And that is how you will preserve the health of the club. Evaluations are helpful, constructive, and contribute to members' personal growth and improvement. Now, it is very tempting to say that, evaluators should be ruthless. You should tell it like it is. You should lay it on the line. You should be blunt. You should tell the speaker that your speech sucked. And you know what? Even the speaker may be happy with that. But what about other people who are attending? They may feel bad. Have you ever seen the ballot of the evaluation speech contest? Does it award points anywhere for being blunt or realistic or frank? Take a look at that ballot right now. It is all about positive feedback. It is all about encouragement. Words like positive, constructive, motivating, they're strewn amongst the ballot. To take a hint from that, evaluation should be uniformly, universally encouraging and motivating. There is no other way to evaluate. The club places high emphasis on education development, of course. It is all about speeches. Speeches are what moves the needle. Speeches are what engages members. Speeches are what causes members to renew. Think about it. If a member is not making speeches from pathways, they don't even need to renew, do they? They can still continue to come in the meetings as guests and maybe take up roles because they have been Toastmasters, right? So you may end up giving meeting roles to people who are not current members just because they are your club members and you're not that strict. But tell me, who renews their membership so they can be Toastmaster of the day 6 times in their row? Who renews their membership because they enjoy a table topic so much? Who renews their membership to listen to the journal evaluation section for 6 months? Answer is no one. All these things add to the quality of a club. Definitely. Club will not be a good club without having quality meeting roles and segments. But what really matters is the speeches. Speeches, let me remind you once again, are the thing that moves the needle on the Distinguished Club program. They move the needle for the members, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pathway complete, the other pathway complete, and finally on the way to Distinguished Toastmaster. Speeches are the thing that leads to club growth. Because when a member has completed 2 paths, they start thinking about going for Distinguished Toastmaster. Speeches are what convinces guests to become members. So, high emphasis on education development. Meetings are very dynamic and fun. So obviously meetings need to be fun. Yes, I sincerely believe that Toastmasters is less about fun and games and more about education, but that does not mean that it has to be dry. So you can shake things up, you can have themed meetings, you can have creative table topics. You can build a fun environment around your meetings. You can have a good balance of icebreakers and advanced level speakers so that the listeners who are listening to speeches have a good balance of all kinds of speeches. Members receive positive support and recognition. Of course, in addition to evaluations, members should also be celebrated when they, for example, when they complete a level, when they complete a path, when they achieve something else in their professional life. Why not celebrate that? Celebrate everything, find excuses to celebrate. That is the one thing that contributes to an ideal club environment. Now, I'll make a controversial statement. Dial back the fun a little, you're not Netflix. Why do I say that? Because if you think that if you keep your meetings fun, people will renew. No, they will not. They will come to the meeting. They will not pay the money. Why? Because if they want to have 2 or 3 hours of entertainment, there's Netflix, there's Amazon Prime, there's a cinema, there's YouTube, there is social media. Some of that is completely free. So why would they pay to entertain themselves at a Toastmasters club? Remember this, nobody pays for entertainment at a Toastmasters club. People pay for education. So, and this is something very interesting. I've seen it the most in corporate and college clubs. The meetings need to be focused on education. If they're not, the management does not look kindly upon the program. Especially when a company or college has sponsored a Toastmasters club, they want education and learning to take place first and foremost, and fun only later. You can get away with it at a community club, right? But in a corporate club, especially a club that you're nursing back to life, or a college club, education needs to take the central seat. There is no other way. We've already covered build a large enough team. Now, how do you build motivation? There may be several ways. First is you can appeal to the intrinsic goodness of the people, the founders of the club, the executive committee, that would you let this club is like your baby? Would you let it die on your watch? Or if it's a company or a college, you can safely say to them that this will unlock so much potential within your employees or students. This is something that has the potential to set your employees or students apart from all others. So why are you letting it go? There are so many ways to build motivation. Contests may be a way to build motivation. I just tried it recently. There was a corporate club that needed rescue. The company was teetering on the edge of not continuing it. And suddenly, I told them that our contest cycle has begun. Would you like your club's participants, would you like your employees to stand on the area, division, and district stage and represent your club and your company? And suddenly, their interest was piqued. So, throw out everything. Something will stick. And all of that will come from your deep-held belief that Toastmasters is one of the best things that can happen to anyone. It is perhaps the world's foremost soft skills building program, which also happens to be the cheapest. The beauty of Toastmasters is that it builds skills, and it builds skills that last a lifetime, rather than having just a brand name trainer lecture for 8 hours. So there's all that. There's all the good reason to continue at Toastmasters. You just need to find the right reason that will matter to a company, and they will buy it. Building excitement, as I just gave the example. Throw in contests, throw in keynote speaker, especially if it's a corporate club that needs rescuing. Corporates are very much into events, right? Brand name speakers, keynotes, and things they can post on social media. So you can tell them that, continue the club and we will ensure that an eminent speaker from the Toastmasters community will speak at your meetings once a month. They will not make a routine Toastmasters speech. They will make a speech about negotiation skills. They will make a speech about meeting management. They will make a speech about extracting the best outcome out of a situation. They'll make a speech about event management. You can plan all these things to build excitement around the club. You can turn it into an education platform rather than just a Toastmasters club, not just as a means to complete levels and learn communication skills, but as a genuine center for usable content. Again, you just have to think of the base, bringing in new blood. And sometimes this is the only way out. You know, when a person has lost too much blood, what do? We infuse them with new blood. That's the only way. So sometimes the existing executive committee or members body of a club, or at least most of them, may have drifted away from Toastmasters. They may be facing financial difficulties. There may be demands on their schedule or time. Any one of those things that will mean that they are no longer able to invest time and effort in the club. So there's only one way, and that is to bring in new blood. Maybe bring in a few people, few new members who can take over as executive committee members. Instead of establishing a new club, consider that particular community or company their members can join an ailing club. This is something very important. You won't have to pay the charter fee again. You won't have to necessarily ensure that there are 20 members, but that particular community or company or college can get the Toastmasters experience without signing up for a new club. You may, with the approval of charter members, you may even change the name of the club. So think about all the possibilities of rescuing a club before establishing a new club. Retraining, recruiting club officers. Club officers need to be retrained. Sometimes they need to be reminded what being a club officer is about. And sometimes new club officers may need to be recruited. For example, we tried this one thing out. There was this group of people who were willing to join an ailing club, but they were all new Toastmasters. They were very reluctant to actually sign up for executive committee roles. And what we did was, I advertised within my home club that who is looking for a presidency. And people responded. I interviewed them, and finally I had their dual membership and appointed them, and they were appointed the president of that club. So it was not a club coach exercise per se, but what really happened was that this new president, who was experiencing presidency for the first time, but who was an experienced Toastmaster, they injected new energy and new focus into the club. So they ended up coaching the club without really being nominated as a coach. So any technique can work. And these techniques can also work in addition to appointing club coaches. Education, we already covered. A club should be all about education. And then membership. And membership is not just about new members. I know most incentives in Toastmasters are centered around recruiting new members. But trust me, even renewing members are as precious as new members. And sometimes they're more precious because, let me remind you, they're the ones who will go for a DPN. They're the ones who will recruit new members. They're the ones who will think about establishing new clubs. And finally, public relations. Now, this may vary. A club seldom dies because there's not enough public relationing. Yes. A club may suffer a lack of guests or lack of new members due to gaps in public relations. But clubs seldom die because of lack of public relations. But that said, when you are appointed a club coach, you may need to devise a new PR strategy for the club members to feel motivated and excited. Think about it. Whenever someone wins a Best Speaker award, how about uploading their speech to Facebook, tag them, ask them to tag their friends, and give a big heading that this Mr. X or Miss X has won the Best Speaker award. This sounds something rare, something that we take for granted. For non-Toastmasters, it's a big thing, because whenever there's such an announcement, people ask you, oh, I just saw you won Best Speaker award. Congratulations. They don't care or even know whether it's a club or a division or a district, right? So for non-Toastmasters, winning best speaker even at a club meeting is a big deal, something that we take for granted. So once you are a club coach, you will definitely need to reinvigorate your public relations strategy. This is the time to remind the Toastmasters promise. Why? Because tough as it is, this assignment may demotivate a club coach so much that they may think about quitting. So in the times of trouble, it will do well, we will do well to have a look at the promise that we made, to attend club meetings regularly, to prepare all the projects, to prepare and fulfill meeting assignments, to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations, help the club maintain the positive, friendly environment necessary, to serve the club as an officer when called upon to do so. Of course, that does not apply to club officers, club coaches. To treat my fellow club members and our guests with respect and courtesy, to bring guests to club meetings so they can see the benefits Toastmaster membership offers, to adhere to the guidelines and rules for all Toastmaster education recognition programs, to act within Toastmaster's core value of integrity, respect, service, and excellence. So this is not for you club coaches. This is something that you can present to the club members of the club that you are coaching. They need to be reminded again and again. Think about individual members. Why do I say that? Because sometimes we may try a one-size-fits-all approach, and that may not be working, and that may be precisely the reason the club is not doing well. Some of the members may be feeling alienated. They are uncomfortable with the club's timing. They may be even uncomfortable about some of the members that have joined the club after they have. And they may be drifting away because of that. They may be uncomfortable with some of the discussions that are taking place at club meetings. They may be uncomfortable with the meeting venue and time. They may be uncomfortable, or they may find the club officers lacking in their commitment. So it is very important to contact individual members and conduct a detailed review. This will be part of your diagnosis. Conduct a detailed review, interview individual members, reach out to individual members. They will feel valued and you will gain some major new insights. So this was all about club coaching. This covered the strategies that you need to succeed as a club coach. And some of these strategies may work, some of these may not work for you. Some of these may not work in the case of your individual club. Sometimes you may succeed as a club coach within 3 months. Sometimes it may take you 1.5 years. Sometimes you may suffer a serious setback at the verge of success. All that will happen. So the key factor is to keep reminding yourself, why did you take on the club coach assignment? What were the challenges that were communicated to you? And what will be the reward once you complete the assignment successfully? Not only will you get a credit, a difficult credit, let me remind you, if your club makes it to 20 members, you will get a credit of district leadership as well towards your distinguished Toastmaster. But most importantly, you will become the savior and the messiah to a whole group of people who will be grateful to you for rescuing their club. Your area, division, and district leadership will also be grateful to you because you have added to the district's performance by rescuing a club. So with that, I end my presentation and open the floor for questions and answers. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hey, Tala! Hey! Hello, Tala bin Hamid.
Hello.
Just wrapped, and what an amazing presentation that was. Thank you so much. So pleased to have you with us.
Thank
So we'd
you.
like to open the floor to any questions, comments, thoughts that you have. We do have Talha here in the room with us. It could be directed to him or to any one of us. Any questions?
Lots to think about. Hi.
One question I do have that we find difficult, I'm Pauline from White Rock Toastmasters, is we are of mixed feeling about the fact that we ask our guests when it's time for table topics. And I noticed last week, you know, when you have 4 guests and you ask your guests, when we left the meeting, I felt badly that there were members that are paying our dues that did not speak. So how is it okay? We still give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. We still give them an opportunity at the end of the meeting to tell them, to tell us what they're looking for and why they would want to join Toastmasters. Is it okay to just not ask them a table topic question?
Virginia, would you like this one?
I would say that it is okay. You know, as Tala talked about in his presentation, we have to remember our members and why they're there, and they wish to speak and they wish to learn. And so at the same time, you're recruiting people and they're welcome to absorb and learn from listening that first time. But their job when they first come really is to just absorb everything and see whether it's right for them and get a sense of the learning environment and whether they think they could be a part of it. So I would concur with what Tala was saying during the presentation. And maybe it's something you can bring up to your executive just to speak. I mean, sometimes when there's not a lot of members, not many members, then that will happen, right? But in a club that is waiting and wishing to speak, those who don't have a role typically should be asked to speak, because then they feel they're part of it. And Tala, if you wish, I see you're nodding your head. Do you have something to add, Tala?
Yes, I'd just like to add that, it also depends upon the club, whether you are member-centric or guest-centric, or what the club needs to be at a certain point in time. It depends upon the membership numbers, right? Usually what happens is, as per my experience, that members turn up in meetings when they have a role, right? When they have a speaking role, when they have a speech. It's very rare. And if they do turn up without having any role, that means it's a natural expectation that they should be given the chance to speak at table topics. And one thing that could help would be that at the start of table topic session, the rules are laid down. The club's rules that, we will have this many speakers, we are pressed for time, and we will try to have a mix of members and guests, or maybe members only, as the club may decide, right? And as for guests, first of all, there should be a tangible difference between being a member and being a guest. And one of those differences would be that you would get a chance, even if you don't have a speaking role, you would get a chance at table topics during the meeting. And this can be very clearly laid down at the start of the meeting and the start of the table topic session. And finally, the guest can be given an opportunity to speak when they're either allowed to introduce themselves or they're allowed to give their feedback about the meeting at the end. So the opportunity is there, but if the criteria is laid down right at the outset, it may help even convert guests to members more easily. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Michael, you had a thought? You're muted.
Thank you. I found that when I started with Rise and Shine, right from the very first day, I was invited as well to be participating in table topics. And they actually asked me as I was coming in, like there was a half an hour chit chat before the session actually started, and a short get to know you scenario happening. And they asked if I wanted to be part of it and take on a question for table topics. And I think that's very encouraging because honestly, That's what made me want to sign up right away. I signed up pretty much the same day, the very first time I went into Toastmasters, because I was asked to participate and become part of the family, part of the inclusiveness of the whole club. And that warm welcome itself is, I think, a bait to entice people to want to sign up.
Thank you, Michael. And just to add my thoughts, Pauline, there are definitely two sides to this coin. And I believe that in Michael's case, that asking at the beginning of the meeting, if that could just be tweaked a little bit to say something like, if we have enough room during table topics, would you like to speak? Because I am totally of the same thinking that members come first. And I also feel that if they aren't given an opportunity to do table topics, it might encourage them, in order to get that stage time, that they need to become a member. They have the opportunity to introduce themselves and to give a guest comment at the end, so they are speaking. I don't see that it is absolutely necessary, but again, it's a club decision. Good question, though.
Yeah.
Thank
I was
Anyone
also wondering, I was wondering if everybody's clear on the process. If you wanted me to go over the process of the coaching, the new coaching program. And although Tala went through that piece, each district may do it slightly differently. So I wanted just to spend a few minutes to let you know how we do it in District 21. And again, I'm apologizing for my glasses, but my eyes are hurting these days. I really wanted to also establish that relationship between the coach and the club, and that is key in the new club coach program. And certainly at District 21, we feel our role is to match the club with a coach, right? Because it doesn't always work. And so we want you to be able to be participating in that process to decide, and the whole club should decide. Right? It's not just the executive, it's not just the president. This has to be offered to the whole club. So what typically happens is that a club will ask for a coach, right, on the one side, and on the other side, we will have recruited a coach. That's what you're here for tonight, is to think about that. And I've taken a screenshot of everybody here. And so this is a coaching session. What Tala just did was a training session. And that's a key piece on this. Because a coach must not only meet the requirements education-wise and be a member in good standing and have been an officer for a year prior, but they must go through the club coaching module in Pathways, and they must take a training session. And that can either be this session or the recording of this session, or a session we may have in the future, or if they're from another district, a coaching information training session from them. We have that happening right now with Nuance. They have a coach from out of our district. So that's very, very key for the actual coach. And then what happens, as Tala talked about that club agreement, you two will get together and you will talk about that. And usually I let the club president kind of arrange that, but sometimes I'm finding that's a little tricky. So I may just step in or have our club coaching specialist do that and bring you together so that you can work through that agreement and agree. One of the things that the club has also got to do, it's requested, I don't want to say also got to do, sorry about that, but they are certainly encouraged to take that club module as well, the club coaching module. It's not a difficult read, it's a short read, and it just understands the importance of that relationship. So there's an agreement that has to be signed by the coach, by the club, by the president, and by the acting delegate, the representative of District 21, whether that's me or the DD or perhaps Dorothy. Then there is the club application form that goes out to Toastmasters, and that's where you get registered as a club coach. And that has got to be signed by the coach, by the club president, and by the district representative. So there's quite a few pieces there that are involved. You know, they don't have to be all wrapped up before you sort of start working with the club, but those are definitely key pieces, and we have to be watching out for those in this new club program. Again, if you have any questions at any time, please reach out. But we'd love to see you consider this very, very vital position. So back to you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Virginia. Right. Well, if you have no further questions, we thank you very much for attending. If you want to view this again, we will have it posted, probably not till the end of next week. And please share it with your Toastmasters in your clubs or that you know, because of course we are in need of lots of coaches. We want to make sure that everyone is well informed, well educated, and understands the responsibility that they're taking with being a club coach. Because very bluntly, it's not an easy job. It's going to require your full attention and reaching out for help, getting some input and guidance. It is a worthy cause, and it feels great when you've accomplished it. And even if you don't accomplish it the first time, you will have grown and learned from your experience. And that's one of the most beneficial things about Toastmasters, is that you get to have an experience and learn and grow from it and be better the next time. Virginia, you had something to add in? Muted. Muted.
Thank you, Dorothy. We would also like to extend an invitation to you. It's not happening right now, but early in the new year, we are considering doing an incentive called a mini club coach award. And what it will do, it will be for people who are considering being coaches. So it's not as though you're working to your DTM and you're working for the full year and a half, but we're asking you to do 4 or 5 sessions with recognition from the club president to work with a club and help them, and go and speak with them and get that sense of what you feel it's like to be a coach with a club. And again, that will take a club who will agree to have you there. But if you're not quite ready to commit for that whole period of time, but you would consider taking a month or 4 meetings, however those fall in order, then it would be a great incentive. And we're offering a nice, tidy gift certificate at the Toastmasters store if you should choose this position. So thank you for considering that. Back to you, Dorothy.
All right, thank you again. And just coming up, while you're here, I might as well tell you that today is Thursday. Next Monday, we will be having a session on a hybrid meeting, and we will have a panel of experts or those who have experienced them themselves. So you're welcome to join us on Monday for that panel session on hybrid meetings. And then on Thursday, November 3rd, we have a session on effective evaluations. And all of that will be in the newsletter, which should be coming out next week. So you'll see that soon. All right, thanks for coming. And Pauline will just hang tight. Tala, thanks for being here again.
It was an honor. Thank
You're
you
a
so
saving
much.
grace.
Are those meetings going to be by registry, or is it going to be by an email invite?
They are the regular Pathways meeting ID, and the password is Pathways. So these ones were registration, but all the other ones weren't. So it will be
Okay.
And you will be getting posters. The area directors will be
Okay.
sending posters to the clubs.
Good.
Okay.
And Tala, I loved listening to you again. And there's so many neat things that you said that I thought were just so cool. and so many great lessons for us, talking about the health of a club and the analogy you used throughout. It was a true delight. So thank you again.
Thoroughly appreciate that. It was an honor doing that.
That's wonderful.
So much.
That's wonderful. Well, everybody, thanks so much. And I hope you learned a lot. And I know, Elizabeth, you were very interested too. So thank you very much for coming.
Virginia, I'm just going to pop into a breakout room with Pauline.
Alrighty. And are you going